This video is how to clean a wetland filter. This is part of the water feature maintenance series, and a lot of you are wondering, is this something that you could tackle yourself? What tools are you going to need for this process? A lot of you may have already cleaned your wetland and are just looking for tips and tricks on how to make it more efficient and to cut down on the time. So today we're going to go over all these things. We're going to answer all of those questions at some point in this video, so you guys stay tuned. My name is Tristan Adams with Modern Design Aquascaping. We specialize in building ponds, fountains, waterfalls out of natural stone and wood. So the first thing we're going to go over is what tools you're going to need for this process. So stay tuned, because at some point in this video we're going to be answering your guys' questions. Let's get rolling. Alright, so the first thing that I want to talk about doesn't even have to do with the actual wetland cleaning itself. It's about why we're here for the biggest portion of this. So what happens with this wetland filter is it is the entire year of accumulated sediment, muck, and for lack of a better term, fish poo. There's a lot of fish poo. If you've seen the size of the fish in this pond, you would understand why. So you can see that there is a ton of plant growth in here, because we refer to this as the vacuum bag of the pond. Instead of the pond having all of this sediment and debris in the thing, you've actually got it building up in your wetland filter. So if you don't know what a wetland filter is or the mechanics and you have one, check out the video link somewhere up here. That is going to be what shows you what's under the ground in this thing, so you can better understand it. Because during the course of this clean out, we're not going all the way down to the aqua blocks. We're not going to expose any of these things, because that's a totally different process. The reason we build it the way that we build it is so it doesn't have to happen that way. It's just going to be a quick and easy cleaning. But we have so much plant growth in here, it is insane. And not only does the wetland provide amazing filtration to keep bottled water clarity in this pond year round, all the stuff that builds up in the different layers of aggregate and rock in this thing where the beneficial bacteria colonizes is just like the perfect pocket for these aquatic plants to have everything they need to be full and thrive all year long. And it is way too much going on right now. So we're gonna have to do a complete overhaul just on the plants in this thing. And it's gonna be a pretty much non-stop process for the next while of just pulling root matter and pulling aquatic plants so that we can start the actual cleaning of the wetland filter. So everything that's growing on that far side probably should have been addressed quite some time ago, because you can see the water level where we're at right now, if we pull this pine straw back, is well above the liner. Those of you who don't know what that means, it is leaking very badly. Very, very badly, almost along this entire backside. So I really want to start on that far end, make sure I undam everything, and there's just a ton of aquatic plants that had to be removed right off the bat to solve this problem right here. You can see the water is actually crystal clear that's on top. If you have additional water storage, this would be a great time to actually save this stuff. So we're using multiple pumps, multiple hoses. Those of you who are watching that only have the one pump and the one hose for pumping out, it's going to be a lot harder for you to save this water, but that's why we have areas. So the pond is actually low on water right now. So we're going to save all of the water we possibly can. That is one thing we always do, is save as much of the original water as you can. Those of you watching that don't know, water is our most valuable resource on this beautiful green earth that we have. So pumping it down the hill for no reason whatsoever is definitely something that we don't want to do, especially being the ecosystem guys that we are. Hurts my feelings. Save the water. So the pond's down quite a bit right now. We're going to take all this clean water, pump it into the pond. We're going to take all the water we can out of this wetland filter that stays pretty clean, and we are going to also pump it into the pond and or holding tanks, depending on how much we got. So we've got our 500-gallon collapsible tubs. We've got multiple of those on site. We do have a lot more equipment than most of you homeowners that are watching, most likely. It'd just be a lot for you guys to have. We do a lot of this kind of stuff, so we have it all. But we're gonna save as much of this water as we can, because cleaning your wetland filter, it is your biological filter. And you really want to make sure you're not using chlorinated hose water to clean this thing, because if you're using your chlorinated hose water, you are sanitizing all of the bacteria that you have worked so hard to establish in this filter over the course of the last year. So you're putting in your bacteria on a weekly basis. This is where most of this stuff is living, is in the multiple feet of aggregate you have in this wetland filter. And as soon as you start rinsing with your chlorinated hose, you begin to sanitize your filter. And that's one thing we try not to do, is to start fresh on our ecosystem on an annual basis, because that's how you get crazy algae blooms. You have problem with your water quality. You have algae buildup that is uncontrollable because you are resetting your biological filter every single year. So we are going to use a pump and a hose in the pond to clean this wetland filter with, while we have a pump in the bottom of the snorkel pumping out. So it makes the process a lot faster. Cleaning your pond and your waterfall, it's a little bit different. So same thing with the biological filter though. We try to never clean the biological filter with chlorinated hose water. If you're on a well, good for you, because then you don't have to have access to an additional pump and hose to do this clean out, and you won't be sanitizing your filter. We're about to be pumping an immense amount of fish juju out of the bottom of this wetland filter. It's going to be legitimate thousands of gallons of water that is polluted and nasty from the last year's accumulated debris in here. That stuff is probably some of the best fertilized, nutrient-rich water that you could possibly have. So if you have a garden, if you have plants that need watering, if you're in a dry spell in the season, whatever it may be, this water is totally wonderfully usable for watering all those plants to give you, very lush, vibrant plants, because there's a lot of stuff in there that's really good for them. So the last thing you want to do is throw the hose over the fence into your neighbor's patio and living section and pump out all of this accumulated debris with the thousands of gallons of water that could potentially cause other issues in their yard. One of the hardest parts, if you've never cleaned your wetland filter before, is probably going to be finding the snorkel. The snorkel, if you don't know what that is, there is another video up here in this section that gives you the mechanics of what a wetland filter is. Fortunately, I built this, I know exactly where the snorkel is, but most of the time it's hidden, it's rocked around, because the last thing you want to do on such a natural looking canvas that we have right here is to have a giant plastic lid showing. So generally they are covered up. Yours might not be, which will make it a whole lot easier to find, but in this case we have this one rocked around. Fortunately, I know where it is, so it's probably going to be a search for you guys. If you do have to look for your snorkel, try to look for relatively circular rock formations somewhere in your wetland. Instead of just having the pea gravel or the smaller rocks, you'll see something that might indicate that there is a hidden lid under there, and that's what you're looking for. So that will give you access to the very bottom of the wetland filter and also the rest of the water storage that is in here, and that is an absolute must if you are cleaning your wetland, is to have access to that, because it looks like this thing's empty right now. All we did was pump the clean water off the top. We have barely scratched the surface of the amount of gallons that are in this wetland filter, and the only way to get to those is with your snorkel lid. So I'm gonna get this thing uncovered and see, before I disturb anything, how much clear water I can save out of this thing and put back into the pond so that we can use it to clean the wetland later. I see it. There's a vault, Monty. Okay, so this, in our case, is our wetland lid. To get to the bottom, it is the snorkel lid. So this could be something like what you are looking for, is this little gray circular contraption right here. You just want to make sure you clear out all the gravel all the way to the bottom of this lid, because if you have stuff that is falling into this hole, it's a really deep hole if it was installed properly, and it's really hard to fit in there upside down to get it out. So yeah, make sure you got the gravel cleared off. Once you got the gravel cleared off, you should be able to unscrew this guy. And we have access to the rest of the water in here. Okay, so now I've got my pump in here. I'm saving that clear water. There is so much water in here, but in the bottom layer, it is completely full of sediment and organic debris. So I have the pump suspended off the bottom right now to make sure the water I'm pumping into the pond is actually clear, because you've got the stuff on top, which is nasty. As long as you don't disturb it too much, you have a bunch of the water that's in the middle between the top of the gravel right here and on the very bottom where that sediment layer is. That's the water we're trying to get to, is the stuff in the middle, because most of it is just as clear as the pond. So why would you ever pump it out? We're going to use this stuff to clean, and that's really going to help you expedite your clean out process. So right now I'm kind of welded here to this pump. I'll probably find a rock or something to put on my rope that I'm standing on so that it doesn't fall to the bottom. Because if you put this pump right in the bottom, all the stuff you're trying to clean out, you're going to pump it straight into your pond or your holding tanks. And that's a no-go. Why even clean it at that point? most of the clean water saved. We actually topped off over 5 inches of the pond, which is multiple thousand gallons where the pond had been leaking out the back of this wetland. We've got all of the large debris removed, all the excess plant material pulled, put onto giant pieces of underlayment. We've literally got like 6 wheelbarrow loads of just solid large debris. Now comes the hard part. So we're gonna take the water we saved in our tubs. We got 1,000 gallons saved just in tubs on top of what we saved in the pond. We're gonna use all of that stuff to rinse all of this nastiness off the top, because we have literal in corners of this thing, multiple inches of nasty debris, pond scum if you will, that has accumulated over the year, and it's just fine sediment that's been underwater. So it's literally just like a handful of ew, fish poo. It's weird, it's nasty, but I'm used to the stuff because I've been doing this for 10 years. So instead of pressure washing and sending that multiple inches of debris all up into your face, your optical stems, we're gonna use probably this full 1,000 gallons right off the bat, now that the whole wetland is empty, to blast down through the top of this gravel and send that debris through the different layers of aggregate. We're washing all of that stuff down through these different layers to get all the accumulated sediment to fall down into the bottom, make its way to the snorkel slowly but surely, and be pumped out of the system. So we've got this black hose going down into the bottom, pumping out with that 170 feet of run. We've got a pump in our tub with another 1.5 inch line that we are going to use, which will bring us to our final rinse. So we're about to plug these guys up and spend most of the rest of this day flushing the endless amount of nastiness out of this wetland that would be in your pond instead. So way to go, you wetland. Great job. Fire me up. All right, so kicking around the top layer of this pea gravel is really gonna help free up the sediment that's in there. Most of it is gonna be done anyways, just from the sheer volume of water that we're using. We actually use nothing but pond water and recycled wetland water to clean these with these 1.5 inch lines, because it takes so long with a hose. You're using multiple thousands of gallons to rinse this thing and actually get it to clean. When I'm spraying right here, the water is instantly disappearing. It is going straight down through the gravel like it should. Now, that doesn't mean it's clean. It just means we've got this top layer of pea gravel mostly freed up, and we've got most of the sediment pushed down into the larger layers of gravel, which is going to allow the water to pass the way that it should. Now, if I come over here, you can see as I'm spraying, the water is actually traveling to other places. That means just the top layer, or at least the top layer, is pretty much completely clogged with whether it be fine debris, sediment, fish scum, root matter, doesn't really matter what it is, but it is clogged. So I am going to spend a lot of time in these areas, kicking stuff around, pushing everything, and rinsing with some high velocity water until I can actually get that water to go down through the different layers, through the pump to be pumped out the way it needs to be. So one tip that I can give you guys, as much as you blast from the top, by the time it makes it down through all the different layers of gravel, down through the aqua blocks, all the way to that little sediment chamber that is in the bottom all the way across here, it's really slowed down and dispersed the water that's fallen through there. If you plug in your wetland pump, the one that you use to operate that goes down and feeds the water into the bottom of this thing so that it can disperse, if you plug that guy in while you've got your pump in the bottom pumping out, plug it in 30 seconds at a time, unplug it and let it pump out, it's really gonna be high velocity water coming in the bottom right off the bat because it's empty. So it's different when the whole thing's full and it's coming in and it's dispersing and moving nice and slow. But when you've got it empty and you've got one pumping out, it's gonna really just send that last little bit of debris that's in the bottom straight to your clean out pump and out of the system. So I've done this a couple times now, and the point that we call clean in the wetland filter is when you can go anywhere in the system, put this big hose over where and actually blast in a spot, and then look at the water at the end of the hose and it's coming out almost clear. We don't go for clear on this thing because those of you who have cleaned ponds before probably know getting that last little bit to actually clear is the difference between a clean out taking 1 day and taking 2 weeks. You leave that last 5 to 10% that's in there and then you call it good. So we're hopefully almost to that point. We're gonna go check the end of our hose as I'm blasting around and see if we have finally hit completion on this wetland. So this is our blast test. So we're gonna see blasting in these areas. I'm gonna go from corner to corner. I'm gonna go all over the sides and I'm going to see if this water is coming out clear on the other end. think we're ready to go check the end of our hose. We'll see what we got. Fire it up. All right, so this is what you want to see right here. So it's not like crystal clear, but it is more than 90% of good. So I'm gonna go unplug that thing, get the wetland actually filling so we can get back to operating. And that brings us to the conclusion. So follow me back and we'll cover it. We have effectively saved all the water that was in here, put it into the pond, put it into the tubs, and then reused only the water that was in the wetland filter to clean the whole thing and get it back to good. That's multiple thousands of gallons of water that was saved during the course of this project, and that's what we try to do. All right, Hunter, this is for you. I want you to do the explanation of everything that just happened up in the wetland, the closure to the video. Now, come on, you want to do no video? Where are you going? Man. Okay, I'll do it. Cleaning a wetland filter, this is how we do it. So there are probably alternate methods to doing these things, but based off what I've learned, this is just the way that we prefer to do it. We're good to go. This thing's filling up right now. All I got to do is cover my vault lid back up. So absolutely, yes, this is something that you can do yourself. You could use different tools. The ones we just use for expedition of the process. If you have better ways of doing it and you are someone out there watching this video, please comment in the comment section below, like, subscribe, because we do these things for you guys. I do have a good time doing it as well, but you guys are the main ones we're doing it for. So I hope you guys have learned something. I hope you enjoyed this, and that's all we've got for now. So, Tristan out. Later. Ow. I can't hide it anymore. Stop recording, we're done. Can't believe I had to get my hands dirty today.
Wetland filters smell like fish poo-poo.
That was awesome, wasn't it? I feel the wetland level rising. Wonder if your boots are waterproof.